Welcome to part 2 of the Garden Report here on CLNS Radio and Celtics blog. Jared Weiss, Sean Highkin here with you. Show's brought to you by Blue Apron. Go to blueapron.com/Garden Report for 3 free meals and free shipping on your first order. Now we're going to talk about hot chocolate himself. Gerald Green was thunderstruck tonight. I mean, talk about a classic Gerald Green performance. Comes out of nowhere in Game 3. He was good in Game 3. He was a big X factor. Tonight, he was the star of that first half. He had 15 points, I believe, in the first half. He was headhunting, going for fadeaways on the baseline. He had a huge dunk in the second half over Dwayne Wade. I mean, Gerald Green looked like that guy that would break out for 30 points every once in a while earlier in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Bulls didn't really have much of a game plan for him because, I mean, again, they're not going to go into this series thinking, hey, we need to have a game plan for Gerald Green. They were letting him get plenty of open threes. He was knocking him down. Like you said, he had that one dunk that looked like kind of the guy, 10 years ago that won the dunk contest. Yeah, Gerald Green was, besides Isaiah Thomas, he was probably the most important player for the Celtics tonight, which is not something you would expect to hear in 2017.
Well, the big thing with Gerald is that they're using him as a screener. He can either be a screener or a weak side stretch shooter. And that's the big thing is that, the purpose of having a power forward on offense is that you can use him effectively as a screener. They're running these staggered screens with Al Horford and Gerald together. Horford will be the first guy, Gerald will be the second guy, or vice versa. And it gives them more variance on the type of actions that they run. But really, at the end of the day, I think Gerald's big contribution tonight was a lot of the isolation scoring that he was doing.
Yeah, it was. And, he was just kind of pulling up for those fadeaway shots, and he was knocking them down. You got to give him credit.
So what the hell do the Bulls do now?
You hope that in the next week there's some technology that allows you to create a bionic hand so that Rondo can get back in the series. Other than that, I got nothing for you. Because, we talk about, Isaiah Cannon played for 34 minutes after barely playing this season. What else was he supposed to do?
Played Enzo Valentine?
Maybe. Jaren Grant was awful. Michael Carter-Williams was a -11 and plus-minus in 8 minutes, which I think is pretty impressive. But, Isaiah Cannon might as well go to Isaiah Cannon at this point. But, yeah, they have no viable point guards. I think that's on management for never really coming up with a viable backup point guard. Cameron Payne, their big trade deadline acquisition, was inactive tonight.
It's incredible that Cam Payne still doesn't play at all. And the fact that Stevens figured out a game plan to keep Robin Lopez away from the boards. And Robin Lopez and the rebound advantage really started to disappear tonight.
Yeah, he did. And the other thing is that Hoiberg tried to match what the Celtics were doing and go small in the fourth quarter. Robin Lopez didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. He had a couple of possessions in the third where he looked like, he was getting kind of his mojo back. He had a couple of baskets in a row, drew some fouls, got a couple of rebounds, and it looked like, okay, maybe this is back to the guy that the Celtics really didn't have any answer for in game 1 and 2. But then he just didn't play at all. They went small. They played Bobby Portis at the 5, Nico at the 4, and it just did not work as well.
So I guess the caveat or hypothetical that I think of, it's part of that hot take machine that I always shut off in my head, but it makes sense to use it in this scenario. If Rajon Rondo hadn't gotten hurt, would we even be here, or would we even be going back to Boston for Game 5?
Maybe not. I don't know. I think the Celtics would have gotten one, but I also still think the Bulls would have been in pretty good position to win this series because that Rondo just makes that offense go. When he's on the court, guys are getting open shots. It's a lot harder for them to do what they've done with making Robin Lopez ineffective, trying to run him out to the perimeter when you have Rondo out there directing traffic on defense and calling out the other team's play calls. I think the Bulls would have pretty handily won this series based on what we saw in the first 2 games if Rondo hadn't gotten hurt. And without him, I don't see really any way the Bulls do win this series.
Okay, before we finish up here, we've been talking for like 10 minutes now. We still haven't talked about Jimmy Butler, who had 23, I think, free throw attempts tonight, which is crazy. And then after the game, just completely shredded Marcus Smart.
Not about that life.
Yeah, he said he's an actor, a great actor, actually. He said that Smart isn't going to get up in his grill again because he ain't about that life. Just waiting for him to say that he's about to commit a Suge Knight, but he didn't go all the way on the quote there. But
just to throw this out there, Marcus Smart is kind of about that life. You might want to look
very
up his
much
background.
About that life. It's kind of shocking that Jimmy Butler said that. I know Jimmy Butler. I don't think he really flops. I've never really seen him do that.
No,
Marcus, for being a really, really tough NBA player, has a strong reputation for flopping, which would kind of mitigate the reputation of being tough. But I think everyone that watches the show is probably aware of Marcus Smart's upbringing. They've read the stories. Adam Himmelsbach had a great feature in the Globe a couple years ago that really detailed that. I mean, Marcus came from kind of a life of struggling on the streets.
Yeah.
He's dealt with all the stuff that you could possibly deal with out there. It's funny to hear Jimmy Butler saying that. What it does mean, though, is that Game 5 is going to be a bloodbath, and that's what I'm excited for.
I am excited for so much stuff. I'm excited for the Fred Hoiberg trying to not talk about the fine that he's going to get in the next couple of days. I'm excited for Marcus Smart's response to Jimmy Butler's comments and maybe how that manifests itself on the court. Really, I mean, I think the Celtics are back in full control of the series after what happened tonight.
Well, it's going to be fun. And we're going to see you after Game 5. We'll be back in the Garden in Boston. The Garden Report will be right here. Go to youtube.com, go to CLNS Radio on YouTube, and you're going to find this show, all the press conferences and player interviews from the games before and after the game. It's your source for everything that you need video-wise for this game right here. You can find me writing on Celtics blog, find all the video stuff on CLNS Radio. Sean, we can find you at The Athletic, which you have to subscribe to The Athletic. They are great. I've written for The Athletic in the Bay Area. They do amazing stuff because they get people like this guy right here.
Well, we also have Stefan No, who's one of our other Bulls writers. He did a piece right after the game tonight, going through film and looking at whether Fred Hoiberg actually had a valid complaint about Isaiah Thomas. And, here's a spoiler. You should go read the piece, but the spoiler alert is that there's really it's not much more egregious with Isaiah Thomas than it is with anybody else. So it's not really a very founded complaint on Fred Hoiberg's part.
I really want to know how it compares to Jimmy Butler. That would be, or Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade carries the ball a lot. That'd be fun. It's every great player carries the ball. It's fine, whatever. And also Locked On Bulls podcast, where you could find my voice before I got hoarse in the first couple of games. I'm sure I'll be doing more Locked On Bulls with you as we go through the rest of this week. We have another game, 2 more games. It's going to be a great week
3.
of this series. Hopefully it goes 7. I want more of this series. As ugly as it has been the entire time, I think tonight it finally got really fun. So that'll do it for us here on the Garden Report. You can find him at Highkin. You can find me at Jared Weiss, NBA. We'll see you after Game 5 here on the Garden Report on CLNS Radio and Celtics Blog.